but we did meet this past weekend for this presentation, so we can meet on the weekends. Working together. Before we actually set guidelines, we actually just came to class with something that we called the discussion list, where we printed out all the questions and we handwrote all of the answers for the discussion list. So we didn't really mean to be like overachievers, but you know, you can't help it. So that is just something that we came up with, and this is an example of what our discussion list kind of looks like. And we also printed out schedules of our work and school so that we can kind of skip that, like, hey, do you have class? Hey, when are you available? When we're in a group text, we can skip that step and say, hey, I know when you're available. Just meet here.
Okay, as far as dividing up the work goes, with such a small group, it's relatively easy because we all know each other's schedule, as Jen pointed out. And so we decided for the discussion questions, we're going to do rotations of 4. So first, Jen will do 4, and then I'll do 4, and then continue on like that until everybody's done their necessary 4, and then we'll switch off for 1 to allocate the extra credit evenly. While working on projects, each person will be assigned specific slides for their PowerPoint, and they'll be responsible for individually presenting and gathering information to present. And then for meeting in class, we decided it'd be best to brainstorm individually before we get to class to avoid groupthink. We don't want to get into a rut and just agree on each other just for the sake of agreeing. We'd like to come together with individual ideas. So it'll be more beneficial for everyone. So when conflict arises, it certainly will, just because we all do have different thinking styles and we have different backgrounds and kind of personalities. We do get along, but we do foresee some conflict. So we decide that everybody will be allowed to put their fair share, their say out there with no interruption to begin with, and then we'll enter a discussion. If that discussion can't solve the solution, we'll do it democratically into a 2/3 vote. And the most important thing that we need to remember is that there will be no personal attacking. When it will be very civil when we are discussing. It's harmful to the group if you start personally attacking and you lose track of the actual discussion.
Okay, so for our group, accountability means a couple of different things. First of all is that team members take responsibility for their actions. So if you agree to do a part of the project, you're expected to follow through and do that. And if something comes up where you can no longer do that part, you're expected to talk to all of us so that we're all on the same page about what's happening. Also, have all assignments completed 1 to 2 days in advance. This is just kind of easier for us because it gives us a buffer period so that everyone has a couple of give or take days just to make sure they turn stuff in on time. And also gives us the rest of us a chance to like reread it and make sure it's what we thought it would be when we first came up with the idea. Third, so consult a TA with questions. Don't rely 100% on team members for your part. We think it's kind of unfair if like you have a very specific like part for the rest of the team to like just automatically know the answers to that. So it's kind of, you need to be proactive and you need to go talk to TA, the teacher, someone to get a hold of the answers for that. Lastly, inform the group when you will not be attending class or meetings. And that's just kind of obvious, just because if we don't know where you are and what you're doing, then it makes life a lot tougher for the rest of us. Okay, and lastly, we have the steps we will take to help one another be successful in this class. So we will share personal notes and insights on readings. So basically, this is just if someone missed a day of class or they didn't completely understand the reading, they didn't understand the discussion questions, then we will all be here to kind of explain to them our thoughts on it, and that way we can kind of just have a group discussion and everyone can be on the same page. We will view the group as one entity rather than 3 separate parts, and this is just our mentality that 3 minds are better than 1 individual, so we would much rather work together than try and compete against each other, and it will hopefully overall make us much more successful in the end. We will create an open and respectful environment. And this is just good to kind of stimulate discussions so that everyone feels a lot more comfortable, talking to each other and speaking their minds. We will be accommodating of work, school, and personal lives, just because we want 100% attendance at all of our meetings. So we're going to work with everyone to make sure that everyone can come to all the meetings. And finally, we will come to class ready to share our insights and ideas, and this will just allow for a lot more discussion and